Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome into the latest edition of Tider Insider TV. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris, and we're not in Atlanta for SEC Media Days, but we got people there. Plus, I did stay at a Holiday Inn in Atlanta one time.
You did?
Yeah. So I think that counts for something, right? But no, we're loaded. It's SEC Media Days edition of TITV, so we've got all that coming. Plus, Alabama football recruiting feels like it's slowed down just a little bit, but that's not necessarily the case. This man will fill you in on why that is. But first, yes, SEC Media Days are currently taking place in the ATL at the Omni Atlanta Hotel at Centennial Park and the College Football Hall of Fame. Yesterday, we heard from coaches and players at South Carolina, LSU, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt. Today, Auburn, Georgia, and the two UTs on the same day, Rod. How interesting is that? Tennessee and Texas had the top billing. Tomorrow belongs to Alabama, period. Mississippi State, Florida, and Oklahoma just along for the ride tomorrow. Tomorrow's Alabama Day. And then we'll wrap it up on Thursday with Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, and Texas A&M. And stay tuned, folks. We know you will anyway, but we'll be going live to Atlanta a little bit later on in TITV with Stu McCann, who is there on site. And we'll have the latest from today and look ahead to tomorrow. All right, Rodney, let's talk about some of the news that's come out of SEC Media Days this week. You always hope the coaches and players make the news, but Greg McElroy, former Alabama quarterback, national championship QB under Nick Saban, the first national title for Saban back in 2009, now a radio show host in Birmingham, also has a podcast, also does play-by-play for college football for ABC and ESPN. He made a lot of news yesterday when he said a person in the know believes Nick Saban will return to coaching. If it wasn't someone notable, I would never say a word, McElroy said. Why would you say a word anyway? I'm still trying to figure out why. He tried to walk it back later, but I don't want to say damage was done, but it was out there, and that yesterday just dominated the headlines. You got a former Alabama national championship quarterback that played for Nick Saban saying that he's been told by someone he believes is in the know that Saban's probably going to return to coaching, and then you try to act like that wasn't a big deal? Too late.
Yeah, I think he probably regretted the way he worded that. Look, I tell you, right after that happened, of course, TiderInsider.com blew up.
Yeah.
I got a text from you. You were live on your show and radio show and asking me what was going on. And I immediately texted someone that I do feel is in the know.
Yeah.
And they immediately said, that's not going to happen.
And you put that out on your
I
board.
did.
And listen, everybody reads, and I say everybody, I mean most everybody that's an Alabama football fan or has connections reads that site. And it wasn't long after you put that out that you talked to a source that had told you that Nick Saban might retire. This is the same source that said he wasn't coming back, and it wasn't long after that McElroy walked it back a little bit.
Yeah, he did. He did, and I'm sure he regretted the way he said it, and kind of the uproar it created. But, the bottom line is, I know Alabama fans, you've been hearing it. I've been getting messages, hey, what about, is this going to happen? No, I really don't believe it's going to happen. Now, anything's possible.
Yeah.
He may decide that he wants to coach again. Who knows? But I'll say this, Gary. Think about it realistically. By the time he would start coaching in the 2026 season, he's 75 years old.
I'm with you. But you know what? That's all Lane Kiffin needed. He was going to get asked about it. He said he would not be surprised. He kind of thought it would happen even after 1 year that Saban would come back. Kirby Smart today kind of laughed at the rumor. He didn't think too much of it. But again, listen, Kiffin is a different kind of bird. We know that. He has really, even though when he was on staff here, he was in Saban's crosshairs a lot. He was able to use that association, just like Steve Sarkisian has, to totally, revitalize his career. And I think he thinks fondly of Alabama, but he's always going to try to stir something if he can.
Yeah, he does. There's no doubt about that. And you remember the popcorn deal a few years ago, right before the Alabama-Ole Miss game, and he said, "Get your popcorn ready." But Kiffin has a way of doing those types of things. But I'll say this, you're right, Gary. I think Kiffin has some sort of infatuation with Alabama.
I do too. Also, news and notes, Josh Heupel, listen, they did snap their 15-game losing streak to Alabama a couple of years ago up in Knoxville, won again last year. But he now says they're focused on ending that 22-year drought here in Tuscaloosa this season.
Listen, that's... after what happened last year, I'm not going to make any kind of bold statements on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I said they would win that game. I said they would beat Oklahoma, and then I said surely they'll beat a decimated Michigan team. Now again, this is a totally different year, a totally different team, but you know what? You got to go out there and win them.
And Diego Pavia, the guy who I guess will play football, college football, for the rest of his life. I'm sure he's going to appeal for another season after this season. He shouldn't even be playing anymore, but he got another year because he said his junior college time should not count. Boy, he has, and that program, listen, that was a program-changing win for Vanderbilt last year against Alabama. They hadn't beaten the Tide in 40 years. Now he says he thinks Vanderbilt can compete for a national championship.
Wow. No, well, listen, Diego.
I don't.
I congratulate you on that win you had last year, but you're not winning a national championship. You're not even competing for one.
And Commissioner Greg Sankey says that college athletics is not broken. It is under stress, but it is not broken, and he expects everything to kind of work out in the long run. All right, now it's time for Coach Talk. Last season, Auburn made a bowl game a priority, and they didn't do it under Hugh Freeze in the second season there for him at Auburn. Today at SEC Media Days, after 4 straight losing seasons, he says he believes it's going to be a much different campaign for the Tigers. In fact, after those 4 straight losing seasons, Freeze is talking college football playoff.
I truly believe that in the playoff run, we're going to be in this discussion because I love this team. I think we've got to stay healthy, and we need the ball to bounce our way a couple times this year instead of against us, I'm sure. But that's our full expectation. We embrace the fact that is what Auburn should be in those talks year in, year out.
All right, let's talk Auburn. Playoffs? Jim Morris Sr. said, playoffs? We talk about playoffs? Yeah, Hugh Freeze is, because I think he felt like after the way this summer's gone, with the golf story dominating headlines and they're, not doing very well on the recruiting trail, that he wanted to come out today and he wanted to be positive and he wanted to let his fan base know that he's got a football team that he thinks not only can compete and make a bowl game, but compete for the college football playoff. Listen, they do have a talented roster. They recruited really well the last couple of years. They brought a lot of those guys back. That wide receiver room they've got probably is the highest paid wide receiving room in the country, I'm guessing. They bring in the quarterback from Oklahoma and who beat Alabama. We know that. And so I would take the same approach if I were Hugh Freeze. You might as well go for it now because you got to build a real positive energy with your fan base.
Well, look, my honest assessment of Auburn is this. Last year, they should have won a lot more games. They blew games. They had opportunities to win. They had turnovers, crazy things that happened where they found ways to lose games that I really thought they should have won. They should have had a much better record. At the same time, when I saw them come into Tuscaloosa, it looked like a mismatch to me. They were fortunate Alabama didn't handle them a lot worse than it was. So with all that said, I agree with you, Gary. I think when you look at Jackson Arnold, you look at that wide receiver group that they have, I think they're going to be really good up front offensively. And I know DJ Durkin is a fantastic defensive coordinator. So look, I'm not selling Auburn short. I don't think Hugh Freeze is out of line. I think they do have a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah, and 5 straight wins for Alabama in the Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl is at Jordan-Hare. They'll be looking to snap that this coming November. All right, let's get to recruiting. It's been a very successful summer for Alabama football recruiting. The Tide has landed 19 total commits for the 2026 class, and boy, the last month or so was phenomenal. They're up to the top 5 in all the rankings and all the different recruiting services. Now the question is, with 19 commits, how are you going to fill out this class? Rodney, we'll start with a few prospects that Alabama is still recruiting very heavily, and it begins with Tate Jones out of St. Paul's down in Mobile. Whether he's an edge rusher or he grows into a interior defensive lineman, he is a priority target for Alabama. He's got a Final 3. The Tide is in it.
They are. It's Alabama, Oregon, and Texas A&M. And, Tank Jones is obviously a high-quality player. Alabama's done extremely well in the state this year. He would be the lone guy. I mean, that's who you're waiting for right now. Can you close the deal on Tank Jones? I'm with you. He could play multiple positions. He could play the Wolf linebacker spot. He could grow into a defensive lineman, which I think that's probably what he'll do. We'll see what happens, Gary. Again, it's a long process. If he commits here this month or early next month, it might be Oregon. It might be Texas A&M. A lot of people think the Ducks have the advantage right now. We'll see, but I think ultimately Alabama's still going to be in the mix here.
All right, a couple of offensive tackles. Wilson Zira out of Georgia. Looks like Auburn's the leader there now, according to the recruiting sites. But Bear Fretwell, an interesting prospect, a guy that's been committed to Georgia Tech. You've talked about his measurables and the fact that as he gets bigger when he gets into college, he is one of those guys that maybe is a little bit under the radar, but he could turn out to be a really fine offensive tackle. And Alabama's turned up the heat in his recruitment.
You know, when you're 6'7", there you see him mauling that guy at the goal line. You're 6'7", you're 280 pounds, you're 17 years old maybe, and guess what? Incredibly, this guy's timed at 4.77 laser time. That's laser time. Handheld time, it would be better than that. But to be able to move like that at his size, that's the kind of offensive lineman they really like, or the guys with that kind of size and the ability to move. He's got the frame. He's going to add weight. Look, this guy is maybe he's a 3-star, but he's got a lot of potential. Again, he is committed to Georgia Tech and considering that Alabama offer.
All right, the last two prospects we'll mention, defensive lineman Elijah Golding and quarterback Taden Kawa.
Yeah, Elijah Golding, I think, from Sarasota, Florida, the defensive lineman. Gary, I think he ultimately picks Notre Dame over Alabama on the 26th of this month.
All right, there's the recruiting update. Still to come on Tider Insider Television. We will discuss which Alabama baseball players are going to have a chance to play professional baseball in the very near future after the draft. And WVOA 23's Stu McCann live at SEC Media Days over in the ATL. He is going to join us after the break to break it all down. Plus, we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. We had a lot of emails come in this week, but we'd also like to get some phone calls. That phone number, as always, 205-348-WVUA. That's 205-348-9882. We'll be right back after this. And welcome back to Tider Insider Television, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Well, WVOA 23 Stu McCann is at the SEC Media Days at the Omni Atlanta Hotel at Centennial Park. Our 4-person team has been there all week, getting the key takeaways from the big day. And today it was a big one with Auburn, Georgia, and Tennessee and Texas. Stu, what are some of the takeaways that you have from today? And, of course, also, we're looking forward to tomorrow being Alabama Day. Let's go to Stu.
Hey guys, 2 days in here at SEC Media Days. I think we finally have our footing. Big day on Tuesday as the storylines. The Auburn Tigers may be struggling the past 2 seasons, 5-17 in SEC play since Hugh Freeze took over, but they are confident. They're optimistic. They're ready to get back into contention for the college football playoffs. Hugh Freeze said as much about his team this season. Another takeaway, Arch Manning is going to be bringing crowds and attention and buzz. He hasn't actually done it on the field yet, hasn't had the opportunity, but there's a lot of confidence and there's a lot of following. You should have seen the group surrounding him in the breakout session in the main media room. It kind of took me back to the old SEC Media Days at the Winfrey Hotel in Hoover, where we'd be following coaches from room to room and doing things like that. A little bit different here in Atlanta. Tomorrow, it's Alabama Day. Coach Kalen DeBoer will be backed by the linebacker Deontay Lawson, left tackle Caden Proctor, and defensive lineman Tim Keenan. The big question that everybody has on their mind, of course, it's quarterbacks. I don't expect you to get too much new revelation stuff on that. But another question we may be able to get some on, because Tim Keenan will be there along the defensive line. Who's going to step up and be that go-to pass rusher? Last season, one never emerged for Alabama. They finished tied for 13th in the SEC with just 25 sacks on the season. That's not going to get it done. So we'll hopefully find out a little bit more about the LT Overton and about the Tim Keenans who are going to be stepping it up and being that go-to guy. But from SEC Media Days at the Omni Hotel in Atlanta, Stu McCann for Tider Insider.
Thank you, Stu. Great stuff. All right, well, we'll get to Alabama in a moment, but he did mention Arch Manning, and you and I were actually watching a clip of him on our news earlier. Listen, man, he's been groomed from this time he's a little boy. They're football's first family, the Mannings are. As he said, I only started 2 days, 2 games. I think he's thrown maybe 95 passes in his career, Rodney. But I'm telling you, I'm like everybody else. I believe he's the real deal.
Yeah,
I think he could win the Heisman.
Well, we'll see. Again, I think when you look at a Manning, you just say you never count him out, right?
That's right.
I mean, the guy looks really good.
And as far as Alabama tomorrow, Ty Simpson's not on any Heisman list, but we do expect him to be the starting quarterback for the Crimson Tide. But since he hasn't been named, he won't be there tomorrow. But I'm sure that Coach Kalen DeBoer is going to be asked about Ty and those other quarterbacks, Keelan Russell and Austin Mack, a lot tomorrow.
Well, that'll be one of the more prominently asked questions is about the quarterbacks. It always generally is. Gary, I'm a little surprised Ty didn't go, actually, that he wasn't one of the group that went. But at the same same time, I mean, again, I think that'll be certainly a question that will be asked a lot.
Can't wait for tomorrow. There's only one Alabama day at SEC Media Days. Everybody else, whether they like it or not, it's Alabama that still, I think, brings up everybody in this league to the next level when it comes to hype and expectations. All right, let's get to the MLB draft. It started on Sunday night, and pitcher Riley Quick was selected in the first round, number 36 overall by the Minnesota Twins. That's got a slot value of $2.62 million for that pick. His best baseball's in front of him. Didn't pitch 2 years ago, much. Had Tommy John in the offseason, came back and threw well for Alabama, but the Twins like that 6'6" frame, that overpowering fastball, working on his other pitches. He's got a chance to be next level. And on day 2, Cade Snell, a couple of outfielders. Cade Snell was picked in round 5, picked 151 of the Chicago Cubs. And Richie Bonamolo was taken in the 7th round, 224 overall. You know where he's from? Bronx, New York. And he got picked by the Yankees. How about that?
Something.
Yep, good for him. Home team. All right, quick thoughts on baseball. Alabama's brought a lot of players in from the portal. Of course, the big news is Zane Adams is coming back. Who was their number 1 pitcher going into the season in the SEC. 2 straight really good years. Trying now to get to a regional and win some games and get to the Super and get back to the College World Series. But they seem to be on a good. I don't know the way to describe it. I think they're going in the right direction.
No, I agree with you, Gary. I do. And I think that the portal's been really good. They've done a fantastic job. They've got some guys that can hit the baseball. They've beefed up the pitching. They've got some guys that they can now kind of develop some depth in that bullpen, which is what they needed. And real quick on Riley Quick, just say this. A lot of people may not know. He was a really good high school offensive lineman that was recruited by a lot of schools, made a great decision to go baseball.
Yeah. And it worked out well. First round pick, going to make a few million right off the bat. All right, coming up, phone calls, emails, and tweets. We got a lot of emails. I understand we've already got some phone calls coming in. Why not? It's SEC Media Days, Alabama Day tomorrow. That number 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Go ahead and let us hear from you. Tider Insider Nation will return in just a couple of minutes. All right, it is moving fast and furious tonight. That's what happens when it's SEC Media Days. Rodney Orr, Gary Harris, welcome back into TITV. We're going to jump right out on the phone lines. Our pal Sammy, the Tomato Man, up in Walker County. Hadn't heard from Sammy in a while. What's going on, man?
Hey, Gary.
Hey, Sammy.
Hey, Rodney. We're glad to talk with y'all guys again, and great job y'all are doing.
Thanks.
I was going to talk about recruiting, Gary and Rodney. I think the secret to it all, you're going to have your 4 or 5 stars. You'll get those, and they've got those verbally committed. But the strength of your class, and it always seemed to be that way with Saban's even classes, is the 4 stars. You got to load up with those 4 stars, and how they finish out will be the story.
Yeah, no, Sammy, I think that's a really good point. I mean, and obviously Alabama has some guys that are 4-star rated players they're really good. Now I'll say this too. I'll add this to you. Throw some 3 stars in that mix.
Absolutely.
I think when you look at J.J. Finch, you look at Brian Williams Jr., there's some other guys, even the local product, Zay Hall here locally.
Hillcrest.
I think, these are guys that are really have opportunities to kind of bump up in the ratings a little bit. But regardless, I think, Sammy, it's not just 4 stars. I agree with you there, but also some of these 3 stars are really talented players.
Absolutely. Thanks for the phone call. Let's go over to Brent and talk to our pal Rick. Hey, Rick.
Fine. How are y'all tonight?
Very well.
Is our secondary the strongest since the national championship of '09, and why do you believe that?
Oh, boy. There have been some good secondaries. 09 was awesome, but there have been some, some good. 2016 comes to mind, 2020. But, yeah, this has a chance right now, I think, to be a very special group in that back end.
Well, look, first of all, Rick, I think it's probably, when you take a position group, it's hard to say there's a more talented position group, depth, quality depth. At a position group on this football team. I mean, it's pretty amazing. Look, I think Mo Lindquist has done a fantastic job now. Jason Jones here as the safeties coach. I think he did a great job of developing those guys last year in a really difficult situation because they had a bunch of new guys. It is a very impressive group. There's no doubt about that. And maybe the second group, Gary, I would mention real quickly would be the wide receivers. They might not be there yet, but I think the wide receiver group's going to be vastly improved this year.
All right, we're going to come back with our email question of the day. We'll do that next. This past Saturday was a big one in Tuscaloosa as former Alabama running back Brian Robinson Jr., now of the Washington Commanders, returned to his high school alma mater, Hillcrest High School, for a football camp for ages 6 to 16. About 200 kids were ready to learn from an NFL player. Also on hand, Alabama cornerback Damani Jackson. Robinson, coming off year 3 with the Commanders, had nearly 800 yards and 8 touchdowns last season. He's their top running back right now, so good for him. All right, welcome back into TITV. Let's get to our email question of the day. It's brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning, serving your family like our family. Will Cole Adams be back to 100% for the coming season? That's from Jamie in Haleyville.
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, I think Cole, certainly went through spring practice. The question on Cole is going to be, can he stay healthy? He's had a lot of injuries. He was out most of his senior year in high school. He's had a lot of injuries since he's been here. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. All
right, let's take one more email question in real quick before we have to go to the break. And it's from David in Tuscaloosa. Actually, our friend David Corrington. Opinions on punting and place-kicking specialists going into the fall.
You know what? I think Connor Talty's going to do a really good job. He's kind of waited his opportunity. He was highly touted. As far as punting, I think Blake Dowd, talking to some people, he actually had a pretty good spring. And he's the transfer from Colorado School of Mines. And then also Alex Asperoff, the freshman. He's a guy that's really talented as well.
All right, thanks for the phone calls and emails. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this. And we thank you for tuning in to this edition of Tider Insider TV, presented by Visit Tuscaloosa. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch a replay at 10:30 following the news at 10, or online anytime at WVUA23.com. We're going to leave you with Jalen Milroe. He hosted 3 football camps this past weekend, including one over in Hoover. Milroe, now a Seattle Seahawks quarterback, but always willing to get back to the kids. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great night. And we'll talk to you again next Tuesday night on Tider Insider TV.